Well, you remember him? Barry Goldwater, 1964. And he's half Jewish. His father was Jewish and he identified as ethnically Jewish. Now, if he would have won the presidency back in 1964, I guarantee you we'd not be in the quagmire we are today. And if we were going to go to war, we would have went to war, and it would have been clear-cut guidelines and goals and guidelines and what we're going to do. We go there, do our job, and come back, and there wouldn't be a constant overseas deployment to benefit the too bigs to fail and the industrial military complex. Just want to point this out because the ADL is actually creating vast amounts of anti-Semitism in the United States. Totally, I know there's a few things they do good, but right now we know that they're mainly the ones behind the YouTube censorship. It's not even exactly the corporations. The ADL and SPLC, along with George Soros, they are actually creating anti-Semitism. But I want to point out to you conservatives out there that a Jewish guy like Barry Goldwater, if he would have won 1964 versus Johnson, there would have been a major difference. And also want to point out this was the map back in 1964 in the election. Where did Barry Goldwater win? South Carolina, Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, and also Arizona. Southern states. Should have won in Florida and Tennessee and North Carolina and Missouri and Arkansas and Oklahoma and Kentucky and Virginia and West Virginia. Should have won more states. But, the thing was it was a carryover from Kennedy. But what's been going on, we've always had this power grab in Washington, D.C. Really, the power grab is coming from the Northeast. And I want to emphasize this. There's never been a break between the global, let's call it the global financial military power, which at the time was Great Britain in 1776. There never has been a break between them and certain elitists in the United States. Not that they actually belong to the same families. In some cases they might. But that mindset and that particular method of operation where they're loyal to the global financial military power, that's always been linked in the Northeast back to wherever it is. Actually, the Northeast has become the global military financial power. And they use the government as their arm of enforcement. This is where we got the 1913 Federal Reserve from, and also the policies of big government. Big government, tell you the truth, big government actually started to really occur after 1865 at Reconstruction in the South. And it's only been a very short window where the United States has been a constitutional republic in the true sense of the word from the time of the Constitution, I think it was 1787, to the war between the states. After the war between the states, we went to an empire. All wars since that time have been fought for the purposes of either financial interest or corporations or banks. It's not very, they right now they disparagingly knock the Confederate veterans. I'll tell you, they're the only ones that actually fought for the homeland. Not the others, not veterans after that fought for the corporate interest. Now, I want to bring up the subject of this video. Deagle.com predictions. They have not wavered. This was back in 2018 when they upgraded this, or they updated, if you want to put it that way. They updated or upgraded their forecast for the United States of America. By 2025, they're talking 99.5 million people from 326 million. So a drop of over two-thirds the population. The GDP will drop by almost 90%. And the military expenditures will drop by almost 95%. And the purchasing power parity, which is like the purchasing power of this consumer, will drop about 80%, roughly or more. About 80%. This is radical predictions. I don't really buy into this exactly, but Deagle.com is not a conspiracy site. It's actually quoted by a lot of different organizations because they do forecast on countries and they also analyze military hardware, aviation hardware, things like that. It's not, they don't make any money. They don't sell off of conspiracy stuff. They don't sell T-shirts and coffee cups, and they don't have advertising on it. It's just it's a serious site. It's not something, but these predictions, I don't buy into them, but I basically do, as a overall, um, I'm thinking, this could actually even happen before the 2020 election, where the rug is pulled out from underneath. There's going to be some kind of economic crash, which could greatly affect Trump's chances of winning, especially with the cheating that's going on. But I think even if Trump wins, he's going to inherit a freaking problem that's so bad. We're at 23 trillion plus in debt. It was said years ago that the point of no return was $24 trillion worth of debt. This is why hard assets are going to actually come into play. Now, how much will silver come into play? Silver can go up exponentially, not because it's been coinage that was used historically for thousands of years as money. It could go up exponentially because it has medicinal and antimicrobial uses, disinfectant uses. It's been known, and there's been other methods that have been perfected recently, in recent times, even with simple colloidal silver giant generators, where you can actually use a few 9-volt batteries and an LED light with a couple silver electrodes and make your own colloidal silver from distilled water. And it can have a lot of uses topically, internally, and also the colloidal silver has been known. They didn't notice right away when they found out that a silver electrode with a certain amount of very small microcurrent can help regenerate tissue where the wound is. Well, they didn't realize what was going on until they found out that it was not just the electricity that was doing it, the very light microcurrent, but the fact that the silver electrode was producing silver ions at the point of the injury, and that was enabling the body to create new stem cells. If this information became widespread, even in times of abundant medical care, everybody would have at least 10 ounces of silver at home for medical purposes, or disinfectant purposes, or antimicrobial purposes. Everybody. And the demand would go up exponentially because there's not enough silver in the world for freaking even everybody to have 1 ounce. So the deal is that I think that if we get into a situation where services are cut back, people are going to have to really take other older methods that are simpler to take care of themselves, not just growing food, but also watching out, against the effects of disease or trying to prevent disease. And I know the FDA is going to say, bleh. I know they got these stooges out there, freaking trained little, monkeys or some shit. I mean, that's basically what you got in the FDA. I mean, these people don't even think, but they're told to say, if I say something medical, it's almost like I got to watch what I say because you can do this and that. But you know what? This knowledge has been known for thousands of years, actually, that silver has antimicrobial properties, and it's totally benign to the human body. There could be a very, very, very slight amount of toxicity, but that could be said about just about anything you eat, for crying out loud. Everything in moderation. But another problem we have in the United States is that we got such an entrenched, one of the things you talk about is this inflation, right? And you say, an ounce of silver was so much in dollars way back when, back in 1964. They had actually take out the silver content from the silver dollars and dimes and quarters and stuff and put copper in there. They were silver clad because the silver was worth that much more than they were afraid people were going to melt down the coinage. And that proved that, the money supply was being inflated. But and you also say, well, that's how they're stealing our wealth. But they're also stealing our wealth through taxes and fees and bureaucracy that we need to not just, cost you money to register something. You're required to comply with more and more laws. And a lot of times these laws are to the benefit of big corporations because it makes it very tough to start a business. It's like there's a lot of garbage you got to go through. You got to register with the state. You got to, do your taxes, and if you're an Chapter S, you got to do your taxes twice, and you got to do your W-9s or whatever. All kinds of garbage. But Americans spent more. This is back in 2017, but I'm sure it's actually acutely worse. Americans spent more on taxes and clothing and food combined than on taxes cost them more than clothing and food combined. So they're paying the government, and this is why I really don't like a lot of people that work for the government, because I consider them absolute leeches. The bigger government gets, and it's gotten so big in the United States. Basically, we are in communist country practically. We are just about there. Um, and I also want to point out something else too. With predictions made by Anatoly Gleason way back in, I think it was the 60s, and also other people. I forgot their names right now, but one of the things they said they were going to do overall with a long-term strategy is make the Soviet Union, it falls apart on purpose, and they're going to be capitalistic, and there's going to be more and more freedoms in Russia, and you're going to see the United States become more and more socialistic, more and more controlled by the government, more and more communism. And what they're going to do is introduce blatant communism. It's like, in other words, Americans are going to look at Russia and see there's more freedoms there, but in reality, it's still being controlled by the political parties behind the scene with an iron fist. And they're going to say, well, we need to have that. So in other words, it's a way to introduce communism in the United States with a human face. That's been an overall strategy for decades. And it's all been an overall strategy to combine the United States and Russia into one global superpower, which actually, in a way, I don't have a problem with, as long as it's under the U.S., or let's say this, the Revolutionary War model of the Bill of Rights and limits in government. I wouldn't care about the United States and Russia getting together and ruling the world. That'd be absolutely fine by me. Now, if you look, another time in history where we almost broke free was in 1968. If Wallace would have picked up, and they say, oh, this guy's a racist. No, he wasn't. If you look at a lot of stuff this guy was saying back then, he was really a populist. And you noticed anytime somebody's a populist, they label him, or he's an anti-corporate, anti-big government guy, they label him a racist every freaking time. But this guy, if he would have won, it would have been a thing. This is where, I look at these maps politically, and I realize Dixie should have been its own country. Dixie should have been, Florida's freaking half Yankee. I mean, I'm originally from New Jersey, but I can tell you one thing: I'm more conservative. I'm not even conservative. I'm reactionary. I'm actually more extreme than most of the Southerners, man. The hardcore ones, and I can get away with it because I'm from the liberal area up north near New York City. It's like they can't tell me, well, that's because you're from down south. Well, I wasn't originally from down south, all right? I mean, I already see what the truth is. Too bad. But you actually look at these maps, political maps in 64 and 68, and also in 2016, where by county especially. The South should have been its own country. And we would have been far more fiscally responsible. They got a balanced budget amendment in Georgia. I think they also have one in Florida. As far as the overall federal government, I can care less what the hell they do. What I'm looking at, though, is that there is going to be this serious collapse coming that, all these doom and gloomers keep saying. And there's loads of them. I know. I see them. I get. I think there's an email called Financial Armageddon or something like that, and it lists all these videos by all these people. It's the same stupid voices every freaking time, and I don't buy into all this doom and gloom crap. I don't. But the point is, there is truth to, it, because if you're not fiscally responsible, you're creating a train wreck you're creating an accident waiting to happen. You're going to make this train wreck happen. And the United States is not going to be going off the cliff because it was fiscally responsible. It's going off the cliff because it's spending itself off the cliff. It's going to happen. And what's going to happen to our money supply? Our money supply is going to be worth way less. The dollars are going to come home to roost. in the United States that were being invested in overseas. It's always a matter of, what the trick is, how do we dump these dollars? The Chinese have them and all that. The Saudis have them. How do we dump all these dollars? So it's a matter of, I'm thinking it's coming up to a critical junction. And, what are you going to do about it? Not a whole hell of a lot, because you don't make the policies on the top. But, I could definitely see that if the southern states were independent and on their own, this part of the country would be fine, and the Northeast would be dealing with the shit that they create instead of freaking shoving it on everybody else. The reality is, I'll tell you the truth though, a lot of people up north don't even like what's going on. If you look at, the socialistic dictators in New Jersey, like Phil Murphy and stuff, he didn't get 100% of the vote. There's a lot of people that didn't vote for him and hate his guts. But be that as it may, the most constitutional-minded people are always in the South. And, unfortunately, Florida's getting flooded with idiots from up north. I thought I was in an area that was immune to that because I'm as far away from the beaches as possible, and I'm not in South Florida, but they're coming up over here. I'm going to probably be up in the mountains in Georgia someday, but for now I'll be here. But the thing is that this prediction with Deagle, I don't think it's going to be that extreme, but I think it's going to come about partially, because we are at a critical junction. It's like first off, I don't worship Trump, okay? I mean, I look at the other clown acts on the other side, and it's like a given that I'm going to have to vote for Trump. There's no doubt about it. But I also realize, he's going to reauthorize the Patriot Act. He's got this Attorney General Barr, who's a anti-gun guy. And I'm like, this is, he's going after the worst people in the swamp, but he's, he ain't so swift, okay? If you had a better alternative, there is no better alternative. They're way, but I don't worship Trump. But what I think is going to happen is Make America Great stuff. It's going to blow up in his face, on everybody's faces who got on board this train. Like, I bought a hat here, Trump 2020, Keeping America Great. And I says, okay, I'll go along with that. Because keeping America great maybe should be the goal. Because it's like, but keeping America great means you be fiscally responsible. It means you got to cut spending. They were criticizing Bush 2, when Bush 1 and whatever, because he's spending so much money. They're supposed to be conservative Republicans. Then Obama gets in, and he's spending more money. But the deal is, the Congress is spending money because they got the power of the purse, right? I mean, always looking at the president. But the thing is, then you get, after Obama, what's going on with Trump. He's even spent his administration, which I know he doesn't authorize the spending. There's more spending going on even than under Obama. Obama was worse than Bush for spending, right? His administration or whatever. I mean, it's really the Congress. I know that. But you see the pattern? This is why this Deagle.com prediction has to come true. Because there's going to come a time, there's going to be something's going to break. Either the government's not going to be freaking able to meet its debt obligations, or there's going to be inflation. And, when this stuff happens, all these people that are on, social services or free, stuff in California is a good example. I mean, the people all leave, man. They'll leave, or they're going to die off. That's why because they're not going to be able to live. They're not going to have a card to go buy food with, Me, I got about 5-6 months worth of freaking emergency food in 30-year cans. Besides having 500 gallons of diesel with a diesel generator, a gas generator, a well, septic tank, so I don't have to worry about city storage. I have a well with a disconnect that you can pump water out with a generator, and also I have jugs of water. And I got all kinds of shit. I mean, if they shut off everything, I'd be good to go for freaking a lot of months. Everybody can croak, man. I mean, it wouldn't matter. I'm not worried about it. And I'm not, I know even though YouTube defunded me, I'm not dependent upon this YouTube money. I like to have it, though. It's fun money. It's extra fun money, okay? And I've actually requested from AdRev and also Freedom Network, but of course they didn't get back to me. And YouTube, as far as I know, maybe December 10th, they might say, your channel's not making money, and it's goodbye. So I'm on BitChute, too. Now, I want to point out another beef I have about this, the Anti-Defamation League, which I don't, these guys are like dumb, deranged liars. Maybe that's what DL stands for. you know, they're deranged liars. I mean, that's really what the hell they are. If they keep smearing this Confederate flag, and I know that's probably why I get demonetized. They said hate because I had the Confederate flags up there or something. Screw you, man. You see this chart here? Sic semper tyrannis. That means death to tyrants. Okay? The Confederate flag was something that was against all kinds of fascists. It's against freaking dictators. 100%. It's the total opposite. I don't give a shit what Soros says about it. He's a lying piece of crap. And you know what? You weenies in the ADL, you better get your heads out of your freaking asses, man, because you really, I'm pro-Jewish, I'm pro-Israel, and I'm pro-freaking Zionist, okay? You guys are idiots, okay? You're freaking screwing things up for Jews and Zionists and Israel. You are. You're freaking morons. You know what? You ought to be writing, instead of us freaking trying to give you money, you ought to be giving money to Confederate causes and getting these flags up everywhere because it's anti-fascist. It's anti-Hitler. It's anti-freaking Nazi. The sons of Confederate veterans fought against the freaking fascists. You see that? You know what you do? You're freaking kicking us in the balls every freaking time. There's a flag that's up in North Florida, just north of I-10. You know what? You and the ADL, you need to support this. We're not supporting you. We already support you in a true sense. You know how this is? Because this is against fascism all the way. Against Hitler. Against the Nazis. And you freaking kick us in the balls. You demonetize me because I freaking had this flag up on my videos? You're idiots, man. You're freaking deranged. You're deranged. You're morons. And you're freaking creating 99% of the freaking anti-Semitism out there. So that's my advertisement on this video, okay? Go fund us, okay? Now, getting back to the economic problems, the United States has always had economic problems. Always has. There's always been depressions and recessions, and there's been times when the weather even created problems, like, when you had not just a dust bowl, but even go back into New England when they had, I think it was a mountain that was the year with no summer or something like that, and they couldn't grow any crops for the whole year. I mean, you get over it, man. You freaking find ways around it. The thing is, the only way around it is through productivity, work, and a good work ethic. That's what it is. Right now, what I've been doing myself, because there's not I really can't get a message across, a pro-American, pro-freedom, a message across on YouTube that well. I've been putting the Sons of the American Revolution daily articles. I actually format them in a nice font and put them on a 2-page PDF. And it takes me a while. It takes me like 4 minutes to convert the articles from text to and format them in a nice readable manner. And then I got to put them up on the internet and with links, and they could be linked back to all kinds of web pages. I've been doing a lot more of that. I mean, I actually spent freaking 20 hours just doing that in the last few days. I must have done about 400 something of them or whatever. I don't know. But, I'm working my ass off on stuff. Even if you don't see me on YouTube making 3 videos a day, you're going to see at least 1 a day. I'm working my ass off. And I got other things I got planned. But I'm going to tell you that this silver thing probably is going to go up mostly because of a collapse of the system. And it's not just going to be that people recognize silver as, oh, silver's money. Well, you know what? They're going to recognize canned food as money, okay? What they're going to recognize, if they freaking get a brain and people freaking start, I mean, I already know what silver can do. It doesn't cure every disease or anything, but it does work against any microbe there is. And in the case of a collapsed system where you're not going to have all the health care out there, in other words, if you get a cut and it gets infected, that could lead to a big problem. If you got colloidal silver and you get a cut and you put the colloidal silver in a bandage, it's going to keep that cut from getting infected, and it's going to help the cut heal up nice, because the ions in the silver help the area where the injury is produce stem cells. That's why silver is going to go up a lot, because if you don't have other medical care, you're going to need that stuff. And I know the idiots in the FD, I seen this stupid idiot bimbo in a I work for the FDA and I got my legal degree. Yeah, get out of here. You know what? Get a job. Anyway, and as far as Florida, these freaking Yankee jackasses, they ought to need, I don't even like using that word because sometimes that means you're just from up north, but I can tell you one thing, the conservatives up north in New Jersey, they're not exactly conservative anyway. They're more conservative when it comes to money and taxes. Everything else, they could be half liberal, I'm reactionary. I'm not even conservative. But this is a flag of the South. This is a flag of Florida when they first seceded. I really like this. The rights of the South at all hazards. And it shows the three states. These are the first three states that seceded: South Carolina, Mississippi, and Florida. Followed by, actually 7 states seceded real quick. South Carolina, Mississippi, Florida, Alabama, Georgia, Louisiana, and Texas. Those are the first 7. Then, later on, after, Lincoln marched through Virginia to attack South Carolina, you had Virginia, Arkansas, North Carolina, and Tennessee seceded. So that was 7 plus 4 makes 11. Then they also recognized Kentucky and Missouri, and they also even had the territories of New Mexico and Arizona, whatever. So, but that's even a good topic for discussion, because if the South was its own country, you would see the South would be a prosperous, free country. And the Northeast, where all this crap is coming from, which infected California, by the way, it would be, I don't know, it would probably would have self-imploded. It's the fact that they own us as a colony is like one of the problems. But I do expect that this Deagle.com prediction, is going to be basically correct. I don't think it's going to be, I can't buy into the numbers. But then again, who the hell knows? Because I always knew that the housing market was going to crap out back before 2007. It was just overheated. But I never thought that, they'd be selling stuff for a fraction of just the direct construction cost without even including the land and the permits and all the other engineering fees and assessment fees. They were selling a product that, just the direct construction cost would to the guy to sell all the contractors that built it, put it together. That was their cost, and that was not all the cost of the entire, real estate property. It was it was being resold on the market for just a fraction of the direct construction cost. Ridiculous. I would never thought it went that low, and I never thought the tech boom would have went as low as it did. I knew it was overheated, but thinking, well, the internet's a growing thing. Well, maybe this is true. Maybe the United States will drop to this population, and then people will come back. This might be a temporary, exodus, but I guarantee you, if there's a financial implosion, all those people that are dependent upon food stamps or whatever, food assistance and housing assistance, and also people live in a major metropolitan area, there probably will be a lot of death, especially if this occurs in the wintertime and we have a extremely severe winter like I expect to happen in 2019, 2020. Now, I don't know if this is going to happen this year, but, the thing is, the powers that be that hate Trump, which I'm not totally on board with this guy, man. I'm telling you, man, I don't worship no one leader. Personally, I hate everybody in the government. Okay, all of them. I don't think the government's worth a crap. But that's how I think, man. I think they're all shit. I don't care if it's state government, say states' rights. State governments are corrupt. Federal government's corrupt. County governments are corrupt. Especially look at Broward County down there in Florida. But they're all corrupt in the state and also probably every other state. I don't really, I mean, that's why I don't care about this politics crap. It's like one corrupt piece of crap versus another. I mean, that's why I don't. That's why even like I don't watch a lot of the politics videos. I'll watch some of them once in a while, but I don't really give a crap what the next giddy rumor is. But I do think that if they can't meet their debt obligations in the government, all these people that came here, like in other words, you get someone if you say one person comes here, the anchor babies or people even came here legally, and then if they bring their parents in, they get Social Security even though they put nothing in it. You see what I mean? It's all that stuff might just go away, and you know what? I mean, maybe it could be this bad. I don't know. But if it is this bad, you're gonna have to. One of the main things besides food, clothing, and shelter is healthcare, and this is where silver has got that. It's unique. I mean, I guess gold. I mean, there's one thing probably gold can do. Probably a lot of people don't know this. Colloidal gold can actually improve your intelligence and your brain function, but I don't know. Probably needed that for the last election because I don't think Hillary shouldn't have even got one vote. I mean, she was that bad, man. I mean, really. And I'm not even a fan of Trump. I don't go Trump. Like I said, I finally got a hat because I figured, what the hell? But that's the only thing I got that indicates. I really never liked that guy, to tell you the truth, man. I don't. I don't want to say this too much because I know there's a lot of super duper Trump fans out there. This guy he's an egotistical yo-yo, man, but he does have a patriotic streak. He does. I mean, what are you going to do, man? But to me, I think they ought to wall off all of Washington, D.C., not let any food in or water. The hell with them. They could seal the place off. We don't need Washington, D.C. This is why, I'm thinking, oh, we need a president to save us. You know what? Well, he's helping because he's getting some of the stuff that's really bad off our backs, but how about none of it? Like I said, I don't like any government. I don't give a crap. Remember the South said they fought for states' rights. Well, if you actually look really carefully, look at the Southern Constitution. This is where we would have never had a problem with the freaking Federal Reserve or the money supply of what's happening today with the debt. And in other words, the Southern Constitution said that you had to clearly define every single in every single appropriation bill what it was for. In other words, it was one particular subject, one item. It would be clearly defined in the heading of the bill, the title of the bill, and also in the details. No omnibus spending bills where you throw everything in there or you freaking obscure what you're spending the money on. That was disallowed. Plus, you have 2/3 of each body of Congress to raise appropriations. Plus, there was limits on infrastructure, what infrastructure was, and the president had line item veto. So, and also, there was a method in the Confederate Constitution to that the new president could fire incumbent bureaucrats from previous administrations, so holdovers. And there was also methods whereby federal officials coming into a state, which going against what the people in the state wanted, those federal officials could be impeached. So there was a lot of stuff in that Constitution that would have automatically stopped any swamp monsters from farming. And this is why that's the main reason that's their main beef with this Confederate stuff, because people have brains, understand that the Confederate Constitution would have totally stopped any kind of swamp from starting. The Confederates, the people that put together that Constitution, they realized that what the flaws were in the U.S. Constitution, where it didn't quite specify enough with the finances and the limits of power. And also, they limited the president to 1 6-year term. That was in the Confederate Constitution because people get into president back in 1860. You can theoretically the president could be elected as many times as and forever, 4 years, 4 years, 4 years, 4 years, 4 years. There was no limit until after they passed an amendment to the Constitution after FDR was elected 4 times. It was only 2 terms before that because it was by precedent only from George Washington. And I also want to point out, when George Washington became president, he never took any money for that office. And he would sign his documents, your obedient servant. So he actually was serving the people. He was they're not like that today. But, again, I want to point out, you look at the back of this fellow's, this is the mechanized cavalry. Not really a motorcycle club, it's a motorcycle, I don't know what the hell you call it. I guess it is in a way it is a club. But whatever, I don't know, maybe whatever. But, this is an organization associated with the Sons of Confederate Veterans. Look on this back, Sic Semper Tyrannis. That's anti-fascist to the max. You and the ADL that are attacking my symbols and attacking me personally and getting me demonetized for this, you're idiots. You really are. And you're freaking screwing things up for Jewish people across the land. You really are. The only way you're going to be open and free is that everybody does their own thing and everybody's got individual rights protected by a constitutional republic. You're not going to be protected under whatever you're making, man. These guys are whacked in the ADL. I can tell you that right now. They're totally whacked. So anyway, over and out. Have a nice day. I'm going to go out there and I'm going to make a bracket for my portable telescopic flagpole that goes off the back of my El Camino. I did fly it one time at the Lighthouse Restaurant back here last Saturday up in Fanning Springs, Florida, when the Dixie Defenders, we had our annual holiday Thanksgiving Christmas dinner, whatever you want to call it, Hanukkah too. And I've had that flag flying out there right on the county highway. You could see it. So, I had it set up with paracord and stuff, but I'm going to make a special bracket for it so it'll be easier to set up and look a little neater. I'll be working on that today, and I'll also be working on converting files for from the Sons of the American Revolution articles, and I'm working on a few websites, Confederate websites. I'll point to a link on one of them right now. It's just 2-pager, but I got others. I bought a domain, and I got to get FTP access to because I don't know how to do websites on with their website tools. I just do them in some software and FTP them up there versus freaking doing it the way they're doing it. I don't understand these website online tools. I'm like, what the? It's supposed to be easier, and it's worse. I'm going to do it the old-fashioned way. But I'm going to put more stuff out there about, the Confederacy, the American Revolution and stuff. Because, YouTube is limiting what you could say. And if I put a video out here about that, I might, get I get 67,000 subscribers, and I get lucky if I get 200 views. If you type in, my name, SYYENERGY. You didn't even type in the 7 yet up on YouTube search engine. It doesn't even pull me up. It pulls somebody else up. They don't like me. But that's the ADL doing that. You guys are idiots, man. You know what? ADL, you owe me money. You owe me money. You owe me back pay. You do. You do, man. With interest. And fees. And psychological stress. And you owe me because you probably demonetized me, you guys in the ADL. You really owe. You owe me for that kitty cat, Tiffany Golddigger. Because if I wasn't demonetized on August 6th, I would have picked up a week earlier what was going on with her, and I would have saved her. I would have almost saved her. So right now, I know it's not exactly YouTube wasn't the one doing this, but now I'm thinking it was the advertisers, the money guy that's out of New York. It's the ADL. You know what? And I want to make sure that you guys understand. You got guys like Barry Goldwater. If he would have got elected, would have been fine. So don't be an anti-Semite because of the stupid ADL. All right? Just leave you with that thought. Over and out.